How to win a game of Risk. Controlling opponents' options, not committing to anyone. One of my favorite board games, Risk, has taught me some lessons. Risk is a game of war played on a map of the world. You conquer countries by attacking opponents, rolling dice to see who loses armies in each attack. You gain extra armies at the start of your turn for controlling more countries and continents. If you conquer at least one country during your turn, you pick up a card. You turn in 3 cards for even larger bonuses of armies. The person who wins typically stays out of the most conflicts early on. They build up strength while others fight. Then they swoop in and clean up the spoils. This is what Mao's Red Army did during World War II, while the Republic of China fought off the brunt of the Japanese invasion of mainland China. Later, Mao defeated a weakened Chinese army. Elites maneuver to make people fight each other instead of them. In Risk, if you are too weak, you will be conquered. If you appear too strong, you will be seen as a threat and ganged up on. If your strength is uncontested, you can simply build up enough armies so no one can attack you. They need to attack someone in order to take a card, so they fight each other. If you hold a continent and don't want an opponent to take your bonus from you, best give them an easy target in another territory, lest they attack your continent's borders out of desperation. Becoming allies with another player could benefit you until the time comes to duel it out, but you should never weaken yourself out of loyalty to an alliance. This only benefits your ally, who will turn on you eventually. Only one can win the game. America, so sure of its enduring power, is actually being used in this scenario. American dollars and lives are used in the Middle East to accomplish the goals of Saudi Arabia and Israel, which build their strength on the sidelines. Meanwhile, the United States is utterly bankrupt. Massive debts have always caught up to destroy even the mightiest empires. It's like presenting a strong front on your borders, but holding the majority of the risk board with just one army in each territory. All it takes is one big attack to break through, and the rest of the empire is fluff. But when it comes to elections, the deep state in the United States knows exactly what to do. Would you like a Democrat or a Republican? Those are your options. The actual elite who win the game are not loyal to a party, and the results will be basically the same whoever gets elected. Henry Kissinger played both sides of the 1972 presidential election. By handing information back and forth from the Nixon and McGovern campaigns, he secured promises from each to be included in the cabinet. He didn't care who won. When the French Revolution broke out in 1789, a French seminary school teacher, Joseph Fouché, grew his hair long, befriended the radical leader Robespierre, and joined the revolution. But in 1792, when Fouché was elected to the National Convention, he chose to sit with the moderates, who were in the majority, rather than the radical Jacobins. Shockingly, Fouché cast the deciding vote to chop off Louis XVI's head. The people wanted blood, so he became a radical. As things heated up in Paris, Fouché decided to accept a post in the countryside to lay low. There, he executed dozens of aristocrats. But when he saw the mood of the country starting to change, he suddenly stopped all executions. Even though he had already murdered plenty, this made him seem reasonable by the standards of the times. But his old radical friend Robespierre, head of the Terror, called Fouché back to Paris and started drumming up support to have Fouché guillotined. Behind the scenes, Fouché worked to turn people against Robespierre, who was already losing popularity because he was a psychopath. Robespierre lost his head. Fouché kept his. So now the moderates were in control and would unleash their own terror. But Fouché sided with the radicals. He still recognized that the public was tired of blood, and the pendulum was swinging back to peace. When the moderates and radicals both lost power, Fouché became a paid spy for the new government. He was elevated to Minister of Police in 1799. But even though it was his job to, say, stop a coup, Fouché somehow slept all day on November 9th, 1799, the day Napoleon Bonaparte took over France. And Napoleon kept Fouché on as Minister of Police for his passive assistance. But in 1808, Fouché conspired with Talleyrand, the French foreign minister, to oust Napoleon. Talleyrand was fired but not killed. Fouché kept his job. When Napoleon was deposed and imprisoned on Elba, Fouché laid low during the restoration of the monarchy under King Louis XVIII, but he was once again elevated to Minister of Police for the 100 days when Napoleon returned to power after escaping Elba. Fouché stayed on to serve the next government, the restoration of King Louis XVIII, who had tried to have Fouché arrested before Napoleon returned, and whose brother Fouché had sent to the guillotine. Talleyrand, too, returned to power after Napoleon's fall. Talleyrand was a bishop when he joined the French Revolution. He left the country when it suited him to keep his head. He helped orchestrate Napoleon's rise to power, and he also helped orchestrate Napoleon's downfall. Later, in France's July Revolution of 1830, after 3 days of riots, the statesman Talleyrand, now elderly, sat by his Paris window, listening to the pealing of the bells that signaled the riots were over. Turning to an assistant, he said, "Ah, the bells. We're winning." "Who's we, mon prince?" the assistant asked. Gesturing for the man to keep quiet, Talleyrand replied, "Not a word. I'll tell you who we are tomorrow." Robert Greene, The 48 Laws of Power. Talleyrand then became France's ambassador to the United Kingdom under the new bourgeois king Louis Philippe. Talleyrand lived to the ripe old age of 84 to die of natural causes. These are the true people in power. The same type exists behind the scenes today. Fun fact, when Talleyrand died in 1838, his Paris home was purchased by James Rothschild. The Rothschilds owned the home until 1950, when it became the U.S. Embassy in France, and remains so today.
Subscribe below for more content like this. This is actually an excerpt from a longer report. If you want to read that or listen to it right now, follow the link below. Thanks for watching.